What is a 10-pound pom? I first remember hearing this term when my mum proudly claimed to be one. I found out afterwards that it's a colloquial term used in Australia to describe British subjects who migrated to Australia after the Second World War by way of an assist passage scheme under the Australian government as part of the populate or perish policy. This scheme was designed to substantially increase the population of Australia through charging only £10 sterling for the fare. So that's the 10-pound part, but what about the term pom? There seems to be a few theories floating around, but none confirmed. The Oxford English Dictionary argues that pom is a contraction of pomegranate, being Australian rhyming slang for immigrant. Another popular theory argues that it's pom because of the colour that British people's skin turns after exposure to the sun, matching the skin of the pomegranate. Another common explanation is that POME stands for Prisoner of Mother England. However, the Oxford Dictionary cites this as an unlikely source. So this digital story presents my family story traced back through English women, so we do not have a common unifying name. Our family names are Tinson, Parker, Brown, Monday, and Williams. This family story begins in Yorkshire, where my great-great-nana, Nana, and Mum all lived in England. My great-nana lived in an old Scarborough hotel managed by her parents, which had secret passages with one that led to a sea cave that was used by smugglers for their loot. She lived through the Great War in Scarborough, which was shelled by 2 German cruisers on the 16th of December 1914, causing significant coastal damage, killing 17 people. Unfortunately, her school was also bombed, which ended her schooling at the age of 14 years. My great-nana's cousin, Leslie Latham, served in the Great War and sent many postcards to my great-nana, which she treasured all her life. Leslie worked with the Horse Guards for Buckingham Palace. One day he disappeared when going to the corner shop to buy a packet of cigarettes. He was never traced. Despite being engaged to a son of a German baroness, my great-nana broke off the engagement and was courted by Norman Brown, my great-grandfather. They married in 1930. My nana was born 3 years later in Shipley, Yorkshire. Following a breakdown in the marriage, my great-nana remarried Edward Robinson in 1955, and they worked together in a seasonal holiday resort in Bridlington. Here, my nana met my granddad, Flying Officer Edward Monday, married in 1955, and moved to an RAF base in Westmoreland. My mum was born 2 years later in the Royal Military Hospital, Chatham, Kent. The next 8 years were spent in various locations around England, and a 2-year stint in Singapore, while my granddad served with the Royal Air Force. The last place my mum has strong memories of was back in Scarborough. My granddad was unable to apply for a commercial pilot licence in England due to slight variations in his vision. He therefore decided to answer an advertisement for work in Australia as an air traffic controller. To increase his likelihood of being successful, he bought a one-way ticket to Australia to follow up his application. The immigration official at the airport in Melbourne asked how long he intended to stay, to which he answered that he did not know. The official then said, "You'll like it here," and then stamped his passport with a permanent stay stamp. Eventually my granddad found work, not as an air traffic controller, but with the RAAF, the Royal Australian Air Force, and sponsored my mum and nana for £10 sterling each. The year was 1965. The flight was long and treacherous, with engine problems and an emergency landing in Bombay. My great-nana and her partner were also sponsored by another Australian relative and made the long journey by ship. The family moved to Manly, where my mum went to school. She found it hard to adjust at first, being teased about her Pommy accent. However, my mum, my nana, and my great-nana came to love the Australian outdoors lifestyle. So this is the family 10-pound pom migration story. But what does this story actually mean to me, and how does it link with my own personal history? Well, firstly, it does not mean that I like to wear socks with my sandals, or eat a big English breakfast every morning, or drink gallons of tea. No, but really, this 10-pound pom migration story means that my parents were able to meet and then later marry in 1983 and have me and my brother. Unlike Mum, we grew up on a farm. Through the Australian drought, as well as flood and snow. My brother and I went to a small country town school, Megalong Public School. We were very in touch with the Australian bush and the Australian wildlife. Our 10-pound pom family history meant that we got to go on overseas trips to meet our English relatives, do a bit of sightseeing, learn the English ways, get in touch with history, and meet the locals. My mum revisited the last place she lived in Scarborough, and on the off chance knocked on her old neighbour's door. Her good friend from 40 odd years ago answered the door. She'd moved back in to look after her sick mother. My English heritage also meant that I was able to get a UK passport, so I could travel and work anywhere in Europe, which I happily did for 2 years. I began by working in a pub in London, travelled Spain, Portugal, France, settled in Ireland, and travelled some more. My mum came to visit me in Europe, and we revisited her family. I stayed long enough in Ireland to become an Irish resident, then sponsor and bring my own Irishmen back to Australia. So this is my family story, traced back through 4 generations on my mother's side, stretching around the world from England and back to Australia. When my great-nana died in 1997, her ashes were transported across the world back to Scarborough, her final resting place. My father's family also has Irish, German and Scottish origins, but that's another story.